people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for part 4 of my favorite books with the disabled main characters. So I will leave parts 1 through 3 in the description box below if you haven't seen those videos already. The first book on this list is called Zia Oasis The World. This book is a middle-grade contemporary fantasy that follows a young girl who looks for like a magical solution to fix her depression, except that it doesn't quite go the way that she expects. This book is absolutely so good, and it's so well done. First of all, the depression representation was so lovely, and it felt like so authentic and so refreshing and so well done and so well developed. Second of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. I love the relationship between the main character and her mom because it felt so wonderful, and there needs to be more like healthy representation of like parent-child relationships, especially when it comes to conversations about mental health, and that's why I think this book is so necessary and it's absolutely so important. The plot was also so intriguing and so engaging, and the magical elements felt so wonderful and so wholesome and so lovely and so magical. This book is absolutely so good and it's so underrated. So with all that said, I would highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called A Fall Wilder Magic. This book is a YA fantasy following a Jewish girl and a dyslexic boy who team up for a magical legendary hunt. This book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so well done. It's one of, honestly, my almost favorites of 2022 because it was so good. It's written by the same author who wrote Down Comes the Night last year, and I think this book is better than Down Comes the Night, which I honestly wasn't expecting at all. But anyway, the point is, this book is so good. First of all, the world building was so atmospheric, and it was absolutely so magical and so wonderful. Second of all, the two characters are both so well developed and so distinct, and I love their platonic and their romantic dynamic because it's absolutely so good and so well developed. The plot was so intriguing and it was absolutely so engaging. The Jewish and dyslexia representation was so good and so like well done. This author is literally so talented, and I will gladly read whatever she writes next because literally her world building is so like rich and it's so well done, and her characters are so easy to like fall in love with. You know what I mean? Like, this book is so good in every single element, and I absolutely loved it so much. So anyway, with all that said, I would highly, highly recommend this book. The next book on this list is called One for All. This book is a YA historical fiction retelling of the Three Musketeers, and it's also gender bent, and the main character has a chronic illness, specifically POTS. This book is absolutely so fantastic, and it's so well done. First of all, the disability chronic illness representation was so lovely, and it was absolutely so wonderful. Second of all, the characters were so well developed and so distinct. Third of all, the plot was so intriguing and it was absolutely so engaging, and the story is absolutely so immersive, and I absolutely like fell in love with all the characters and the events, and I just really enjoyed reading this book all together. Fourth of all, the found family sisterhood at the center of this book was so good, and it was absolutely so wonderful. This book is absolutely so amazing, and also, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first book I've ever read with this specific chronic illness representation, and of course I can only speak on it to an extent since I don't actually have this specific chronic illness, but I think that the representation was literally so well done. In fact, I think this book is actually own voices, so that's fun. But anyway, the point is, this book is so good and it's so well developed in every single element. The sisterhood, the characters, like the platonic dynamic with each other, the plot, the world building, like everything about it was so well done. So anyway, with all that said, this book is so underrated and it deserves so much more hype. So please go get it, the hype that it absolutely deserves, because I highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Breathe and Count Back from 10. This book is a YA contemporary following a young Peruvian-American teenager who's navigating her hip dysplasia as well as her overprotective immigrant parent while also following her dreams. This book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so well done. I know I've said this about every single book on this list, but the disability representation in this book was so well done and it was absolutely so amazing. Second of all, I believe this is the first book that I've ever read where the main character is disabled and is also a person of color, which was so refreshing to read about. about as a disabled woman of color myself. You know what I mean? Like, this book was so good. Second of all, the plot itself was so intriguing, and it was absolutely so engaging. The sister relationship was so lovely, and it was so wonderful. The family dynamics felt so authentic and so well done. The romance was so cute, and it was so well developed. The world building was so well done as well. This book is so good, and again, it's so underrated, and it deserves so much more hype. So with that, I would highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Gallant. This book is a YA fantasy that's set in a world where the world meets its shadow, if that makes any sense, and it follows a main character who's non-verbal, and she's beckoned by both sides. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but basically this book was so good. First of all, the disability representation was so, casual, and it was so well done, because I loved how casual it was. You know what I mean? It was so well done. It was one of those stories where, the main character's, internalized ableism wasn't really a part of the story at all, which I appreciate from time to time. Second of all, the world building was so atmospheric, and it was absolutely so well done. I want to go to Gallant myself and experience this all, because it was so well done. Literally, before I read this book, I thought this author was so overrated. But then I read this book, and I completely changed my mind, because this book is so good. The plot was so engaging, and it was absolutely so intriguing. The characters are so well developed and so distinct, and I just really, really enjoyed them. This story is absolutely so immersive, and it's so well done. And also, it's a fantasy standalone as well, so we love to see it. Anyway, with all of that said, this book is so good, and I would highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called At the End of Everything. This book is a YA science fiction story following three main characters who were basically left behind to die at a juvenile detention center during a plague. And of the three main characters, one of them is autistic, one of them is non-binary, and the third one is air-race. This book is absolutely so fantastic, and it's so well done. First of all, the disability autism representation was so well done, and I felt absolutely so seen by that main character. Also, the queer representation was also really, really great, so we love to see it. The plot was so intriguing, and it was absolutely so engaging. The world building was so well done, and it was so atmospheric. The characters themselves were so well developed and so distinct, and I love their group platonic dynamic literally so much. This book is so good, and it's so underrated. Although books with disabled main characters tend to be really underrated overall, just in general. But anyway, I digress. This book is absolutely so good, and it deserves so much more hype, because it's so fantastic and so well developed in every single element. The platonic group friendship dynamic, the characters themselves, the plot, the world building. You know what I mean? Anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend this book. The last book on this list, and certainly not the least, because I've talked about this book literally so many times this year on my channel, and it is Ellen Outside the Lines. This book is absolutely so fantastic, and it's so good. For those who don't know, this book is a middle-grade contemporary following a young, non-binary, sapphic autistic main character as they navigate new friendships, changing horizons, and a school trip. I literally love this book so much, as you all know. First of all, the autism representation was so good, and I literally felt so seen and so understood, because if you didn't know, I'm autistic too. Second of all, the characters were literally so well done and so well developed, and they literally felt so distinct and so authentic. The friendships were literally so good. The plot was so intriguing, and it was absolutely so engaging, and the world building was literally so immersive and so atmospheric. I literally love this book so much, because I think this author is literally so talented, and I love them so much. I'm literally so excited for their 2023 new release, because I just know that it's going to be absolutely so amazing, because I have such high expectations. Anyway, this book was one of my most anticipated 2022 new releases, and it absolutely met that hype, and we love to see it. Anyway, with all that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend this book. So, in conclusion, first of all, happy Disability Pride Month. Second of all, I hope that these books help diversify your bookshelf. If you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up, Comment down below the dolphin emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!